Commander Vextera stood in the center of her command ship, her crystal body glowing with a soft blue light. Around her, dozens of screens showed star maps and data streams. The bridge hummed with quiet activity as her crew prepared for what should be an easy victory. Target system approaching. Commander, reported Navigation Officer Crystal, his 6 arms dancing across the control panels. 3 worlds detected, just as our intelligence predicted. Vextara nodded, her crystalline head catching the light from the displays. The Galactic Union had been expanding for 300 years, and every conquest followed the same pattern. Find a system with useful resources, demand surrender, take control. Simple and effective. These worlds were marked as uninhabitable. In our records, she said, reviewing the mission files. Perfect for resource extraction once we clear out any primitive life forms. Dr. Kylemouth, the fleet's top scientist, looked up from his analysis station. His insect-like features showed confusion as he studied the incoming data. Commander, I'm getting strange readings from all 3 planets. To find strange Vextera. Ordered, moving closer to his station. Well, the first planet, designated Kepler 44b, shows surface temperatures of minus 180 degrees. That's cold enough to freeze most known atmospheres solid, yet I'm detecting thermal signatures. That suggests ... activity. Vextara's blue glow flickered with interest. Volcanic activity? No, Commander. These signatures are too regular, too organized. They look almost like ... cities. The bridge fell silent. Every species in the known galaxy had tried to colonize harsh worlds before. None had succeeded on planets this extreme. Show me the second planet, Vextera commanded. Dr. Kylemouth's clawed hands moved across his controls. Proxima Centauri b, tidally locked, meaning one side faces permanent day and the other permanent night. The day side reaches temperatures of over 400 degrees, the night side drops to minus 200 degrees. The temperature difference would kill any known life form in minutes. In the readings, massive energy signatures on both sides. Solar collectors on the day side, industrial activity on the night side. There are structures in the twilight zone between them that span hundreds of kilometers. Vextera felt her crystal structure begin to vibrate with stress. In 3 centuries of conquest, the Union had never encountered anything like this. The third planet, she asked, though she was beginning to fear the answer. HD, 40,307 grams, high-gravity world, 3 times standard, atmospheric pressure that would crush most ship hulls. Methane storms with winds reaching 800 kilometers per hour. The atmosphere is toxic to every known species. Let me guess, more impossible readings? Surface installations, Commander. Not just survival shelters, but major industrial complexes. They're not just living there, they're thriving. Vextera stared at the data, her mind struggling to process what she was seeing. Are you telling me that someone has successfully colonized? 3 worlds that should be instant death traps. It's exactly what I'm telling you, Commander. And based on the ship designs I'm detecting in orbit around these worlds, I believe we know who's responsible. Dr. Kylemouth brought up a new display. The ships were sleek and functional, built for efficiency rather than intimidation. They matched the designs in the Union's newest intelligence files. Humans, Vextara whispered. The words sent ripples of unease through the bridge crew. The humans had only recently emerged from their home system, but they had already gained a reputation for unpredictability. While other species expanded cautiously, testing worlds for habitability, humans seemed to go wherever they pleased. Commander Communications Officer Plexstar called out, "We're receiving a transmission from the first planet." "Put it through," Vextara ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing the interior of what appeared to be a command center. Through the windows behind the speaker, they could see a landscape of ice and snow, fierce winds howling across a frozen wasteland. The human who appeared on screen was wearing a thick jacket with fur around the hood. Comfortable. He was young, maybe 30 standard years, with dark hair and calm eyes. "Greetings, Galactic Union Fleet," the human said in perfect galactic common language. "I am Commander Park Hyun-woo of New Seoul Station. We've been monitoring your approach. Welcome to Kepler 44b. Vextara stared at the transmission. Behind the human, she could see other people moving around the command center, all dressed for the extreme cold, but working with casual efficiency. "How are you alive?" Question escaping before she could stop it. Park Hyun-woo smiled. "We've been living here for 15 years, Commander. This is our home now. The geothermal energy is excellent, and the ice mining operations are very productive. Our children love playing in the glacier caves." "Children?" Dr. Kalmoth whispered. In horror, "Oh yes, we have about 50,000 people living here now. Families, schools, the whole community. The underground cities are quite comfortable once you get used to them." Vextera felt her crystal structure crack slightly. "Commander Park, are you telling me that humans are raising children on a world where the surface temperature would kill most species in seconds?" "Well, you do need proper equipment," Park replied casually. "But yes, we've adapted quite well. Our environmental suits are very advanced, and the underground habitats maintain perfect conditions. Would you like a tour of our facilities?" Before Vextera could answer, another transmission came through from the second planet. This one showed a human woman in a command center with massive windows showing. A landscape split between blazing desert and frozen wasteland. "I am Commander Lee Dobbin of Twilight Base," the woman said. "I understand you're new to the system. We're always happy to meet new neighbors." "How many of you are there?" Vextara asked. "On this world, about 70,000. We've been here 12 years now. The thermal differential provides incredible energy generation opportunities. We've built cities that move between the temperature zones, following the twilight line around the planet." "That's impossible," Dr. Kylemouth protested. "The temperature changes would kill you." Lee Dobbin laughed. "You'd be surprised what humans can adapt to, Doctor. We've developed quite sophisticated life support systems. Plus, the constant temperature differential has allowed us to create some amazing technologies." A third transmission joined the conversation. This one showed a man in what appeared to be a reinforced bunker with warnings lights flashing in the background. "Commander Kim Jae-ho, HD 40307G Defense Command," he said. "Sorry for the delay. We're having a Class 5 methane storm right now. Winds are only about 600 kilometers per hour today, so it's pretty mild." Vextera's stress cracks deepened. "You're outside during a methane storm?" "Oh, we're not outside. We're in our surface command center. The storms are actually quite useful for power generation. We've learned to harvest energy from them. Been living here for 10 years now, and we've got about 40,000 people in various installations." "Surface installations," Vextera repeated, slowly. "In crushing gravity and toxic atmosphere." "The gravity took some getting used to," Kim admitted. "But our people have adapted. The high pressure is actually useful for certain manufacturing processes. We've become quite good at creating materials that can't be made anywhere else." Dr. Kylemouth was frantically running calculations at his station. "Commander, the energy signatures I'm detecting suggest these aren't small settlements. These are major industrial and population centers." "That's correct," Park Hyun-woo confirmed. "We've been preparing these worlds for years. They're perfect for our needs." "Perfect?" Vextara asked. "These worlds should be uninhabitable. That's what makes them perfect," Lee Dobbin explained. "No one else wants them, so we can develop them without interference. Plus, the extreme conditions have forced us to develop amazing technologies. And," Kim Jae-ho added with a smile, "they're excellent defensive positions, hard to attack a world you can't survive on." The implications hit Vextera like a physical blow. The humans hadn't just survived on these impossible worlds. They had chosen them deliberately. They had turned the most hostile environments in the galaxy into their homes. "How many worlds like this do you have?" she asked quietly. The three human commanders exchanged glances across the communication link. "In this system, just these 3, Park replied. "But we have similar settlements in 17 other systems. We're always looking for new challenges." Vextera felt her crystal structure begin to fracture with stress. In 300 years of galactic conquest, the Union had never encountered anything like this. They were facing a species that treated uninhabitable worlds as prime real estate. "Commander," Dr. Kylemouth whispered urgently, "if they can live on these worlds, they can turn them into fortresses we can't even approach." Vextara stared at the 3 human faces on her screen, each broadcasting from a world that should have been instantly lethal to any known life form. For the first time in her long military career, she felt something she had never experienced before: fear. Commander Vextara tried to control her growing panic as she watched the 3 human commanders on her screen. Their calm faces showed no fear, no worry about the massive alien fleet that had just arrived in their system. This was wrong. This was not how first contact was supposed to work. "Communications officer, Plexstar," she ordered, her crystal voice sharp with authority. "Begin standard intimidation protocols. Send surrender demands on all frequencies." Plexstar's tentacles danced across his controls. "Message sent, Commander. Standard format. Surrender immediately or face destruction." The Union had used this approach for 3 centuries. Show overwhelming force, demand surrender, accept the inevitable submission. Every species followed the same pattern when faced with superior firepower. Response coming in from all 3 planets, Plexstar reported. The main screen split into 3 sections. The human commanders appeared again, but now they were joined by others. Behind Park Hyun-woo, on the ice world, several other humans worked at control stations. Through the windows, Vextara could see massive structures built into the frozen landscape. With lights twinkling in underground cities. "We received your surrender demand," Park said politely. "Appreciate the formal greeting, but we're not interested in surrendering. This is our home, your home." Vextara's crystal structure flickered with disbelief. "You're living on worlds. That should kill you in minutes." "Should" is a strong word, Lee Dobbin interjected from her twilight base. Behind her, the view showed a city that seemed to move on massive tracks. Following the line between the burning dayside and frozen night side of her world. "We've been here 12 years. Our children were born here. This is the only home they've ever known." "Children," Dr. Kyle Mouth whispered again, his insect features showing horror. "They're raising young on these death worlds." Kim Jaho spoke up from his heavy world command post. "Commander Vextara, we understand this might be confusing for you. Most species can't survive in extreme environments. But humans are different. We adapt. Adapt." Vextara's voice cracked like breaking glass. "The gravity on your world would crush our ships. The atmosphere would dissolve our hull plating. Storms would tear apart our strongest materials." "Yes, it's challenging," Kim agreed. "But that's what makes it interesting. We've learned to build with materials that get stronger under pressure. Our people have modified their bodies to handle the high gravity. The methane storms power our entire industrial complex." "Modified their bodies?" Dr. Kyle Moth leaned forward, his scientific curiosity overcoming his fear. "What do you mean? Genetic adaptations, enhanced lung capacity, stronger bones, improved circulation," Kim explained casually. "Standard modifications for high-gravity worlds. Our children are born with these improvements. They're perfectly comfortable here." Vextara felt her crystal structure begin to vibrate with stress. "You're telling me you've deliberately changed yourselves to live in hell?" "We prefer to call it home," Lee Dobbin said with a smile. "And it's not hell when you're properly prepared for it. The temperature differential on our world provides incredible energy sources. We've built thermal generators that could power entire star systems." "Show them the city," Dobbin Park suggested. Lee Dobbin's camera view expanded to show the full scope of her settlement. The moving city was enormous, built on massive tracks that carried it slowly around the planet. Solar collectors on enormous arms extended toward the dayside, while industrial complexes on the other side took advantage of the extreme cold. "The city moves 20 kilometers per day," she explained. "It follows the twilight zone, where the temperature is manageable for surface operations. But we have people working on both the day and night sides. The dayside workers use advanced cooling suits, while the nightside workers use heating systems." "That's impossible," Navigation Officer Crickstal said, his 6 arms trembling. "The temperature difference would kill anyone who tried to move between those zones." "Not if you're prepared," Lee replied. "Our people train for years to work in extreme temperatures. We have transition chambers that gradually adjust their body temperature. It's become routine." Park Hyun-woo nodded in agreement. "Same here on the ice world. Our people regularly work outside in the surface installations. Minus 180 degrees is cold, but our environmental suits handle it easily. The children love ice skating on the frozen methane lakes. Children ice skating on frozen methane, Vextera repeated slowly. At temperatures that would freeze solid most known atmospheres. They have special suits, of course, Park said. But yes, it's quite popular. We've built entire recreational facilities in the glacier caves. The kids also enjoy the aurora displays caused by the cosmic radiation. Cosmic radiation? Dr. Kylemouth's voice pitched higher. That would cause immediate cellular damage to most species. We've adapted to handle higher radiation levels, Kim explained. It was necessary for living on worlds like this. The cosmic rays actually help power some of our systems. Vextera stared at the screens, watching normal human activities, taking place in environments that would be instantly lethal to her people. Children playing in conditions that would kill trained Union soldiers. Families living comfortable lives in what should be uninhabitable wasteland. Commander Communications Officer Plexstar said urgently, I'm detecting massive energy signatures from all 3 planets. These aren't just settlements. These are major industrial complexes. That's correct, Park confirmed. We've been developing these worlds for years. The extreme conditions have forced us to create amazing technologies. Our manufacturing capabilities far exceed what we could achieve on normal worlds. The high pressure on my world allows us to create materials that can't be made anywhere else, Kim added. We've developed new types of metal alloys, advanced ceramics, and crystal structures that are impossible to create in normal conditions. And the energy we harvest from the temperature differential is incredible, Lee said. We're actually exporting power to other human colonies now. Other colonies? Vextara asked, dreading the answer. Oh yes, Park said. We have settlements on 17 different extreme worlds. Lava planets, ice worlds, high radiation systems, toxic atmosphere planets, anywhere that's challenging and has good resources. You're expanding to more death worlds? Dr. Kylemoth asked in horror. We'd prefer to call them opportunity worlds, Lee corrected. The more extreme the conditions, the more interesting the technological challenges, the better the defensive advantages. Defensive advantages? Kim Jae-ho's expression became more serious. Commander, these worlds are perfect military positions. You can't attack what you can't survive on. Your ships can't land on my world. The gravity would crush them. Your troops can't survive on the ice world. They'd freeze solid in seconds. And the thermal differential on the Twilight world would kill your people before they could even leave their ships. Vextara felt a chill that had nothing to do with temperature. You've turned uninhabitable worlds into fortress systems. We've turned uninhabitable worlds into homes, Park corrected. The fact that they're also perfect defensive positions is just a bonus. But why? Vextara asked. Why choose to live in such harsh conditions when there are so many comfortable worlds available? The 3 human commanders exchanged glances across the communication link. Because comfortable is boring, Lee Dobbin said simply. Humans need challenges, need to push boundaries and test our limits. Living on easy worlds makes us soft. These worlds make us stronger, Kim added. They force us to innovate too. Adapt to become better than we were before. And they're beautiful in their own way, Park concluded. The ice formations on my world are stunning. The aurora displays are incredible. The children born here see wonders that humans on normal worlds can't even imagine. Vextara looked around her bridge at her crew. Every alien face showed the same expression of disbelief and growing fear. They were facing a species that had deliberately chosen to live in conditions that would kill them instantly. Monder, Dr. Kalmoth whispered, if they can survive on these worlds, they can turn any harsh environment into a military advantage. We're not interested in military conflict, Park said, apparently having heard the comment. We're scientists, engineers, and colonists. We just want to live our lives and raise our families in peace. But, Kim added with a slight smile, we're also very well prepared to defend our homes if necessary. The implications hit Vextera like a physical blow. Humans weren't just surviving on impossible worlds. They were thriving there, building industrial complexes, raising families, and creating defensive positions that couldn't be conquered. because they couldn't be approached. For the first time in 3 centuries of galactic conquest, the Union fleet had found worlds they couldn't take. Dr. Kylemouth worked frantically at his science station, his insect-like claws clicking rapidly across multiple keyboards. The data streaming in from the 3 human worlds was impossible, but it was also undeniably real. Commander Vextara stood. Behind him, her crystal structure glowing brighter with each new discovery. "Commander, you need to see this," Dr. Kylemouth said, his voice shaking. "I've been analyzing the intercepted communications and sensor data. What we're seeing isn't random. Survival. This is systematic preparation." "Explain," Vextara ordered, though she dreaded what she might learn. "These humans didn't just find these worlds and decide to stay. They planned this. Look at the timeline." Dr. Kylemouth brought up a complex chart on the main screen. 20 years ago, human scout ships visited over 200 systems. They weren't looking for comfortable worlds like every other species. They were specifically searching for the most hostile environments they could find. That makes no sense. Navigation Officer Crystal protested. "Why would anyone choose dangerous worlds when safer ones were available?"
Us.
"Because they're not like us," Dr. Kylemouth replied. "Look at their selection criteria. High radiation, extreme temperatures, crushing gravity, toxic atmospheres. They wanted worlds that would kill other species instantly." The science officer pulled up detailed scans of the ice world. Kepler 442b isn't just a frozen wasteland where humans happen to survive. They've turned it into a masterpiece of cold weather engineering. The underground cities are connected by a tunnel system that spans the entire planet. They're not just living there, they're farming there. "Farming?" Vextara asked. "In minus 180-degree temperatures? Cryogenic agriculture?" Dr. Kylemouth explained. "They're growing plants that have been genetically modified to survive extreme cold. The crops actually grow better in these conditions than they would on normal worlds. They're producing food that can't be grown anywhere else in the galaxy." Display shifted to show cross-sections of the underground cities. Massive chambers, filled with growing plants, all thriving in conditions that would kill normal vegetation instantly. Human workers moved between the crops wearing thick suits. But they moved with practiced ease, like farmers who had been doing this work for generations. "Children," Dr. Kylemouth continued, "are born in these conditions. They're not just surviving the cold, they're more comfortable in it than they would be on warm worlds. Their bodies have adapted to process the extreme temperatures as normal." "Show me the day-night world," Vextara demanded. The screen switched. To Proxima Centauri b. The moving city was even more impressive than they had first realized. Massive solar collection arrays stretched toward the day side. But they weren't just collecting energy, they were processing it into forms that could be used across the galaxy. "The thermal differential isn't just powering their city," Dr. Kylemouth explained. "They're using it to create energy storage systems that are impossible to make anywhere else. The extreme temperature difference allows them to build power cells that can store 100 times more energy than normal technology." "And the manufacturing?" Vextara asked. "Incredible. It's the night side of the planet has factories that take advantage of the near absolute zero temperatures. They're creating precision instruments and computer components that require perfect cold conditions. Meanwhile, the day side has forges that use the extreme heat to create metal alloys that can't be made with normal furnaces." The display showed human workers moving between the temperature zones regularly. They wore special suits that could adjust to extreme temperature changes, but they moved with casual confidence. Children played in enclosed areas that gradually shifted from hot to cold, teaching them to adapt to the temperature differences from a young age. "They're not just surviving the temperature extremes," Dr. Kylemouth said. "They're using them as tools. The humans on this world are stronger, more adaptable, and more skilled than humans on normal worlds. The extreme conditions have made them better." "What about the high-gravity world?" Vextara asked, though she was beginning to fear the answer. The screen switched to HD, 40,307 grams. The surface installations were even more shocking when seen in detail. Massive structures built to withstand crushing gravity and toxic storms rose from the methane seas. But they weren't just survival shelters, they were cities floating on the toxic ocean. The humans on this world have become something new, Doctor, Kyle Moth said quietly. The high gravity has made them incredibly strong. The toxic atmosphere has forced them to develop enhanced lung systems and improved blood chemistry. They're not just surviving, they're thriving. The display showed human workers outside during a methane storm. They wore environmental suits, but they moved with strength and speed that would be impossible for normal humans. They were harvesting energy from the storm itself, using the violent winds to power massive generators. The storms aren't disasters to them, Dr. Kyle Moth explained. They're opportunities. They've learned to predict the weather patterns and use the storms for manufacturing and energy production. The high pressure allows them to create materials that are stronger than anything we can make. How strong? Vextara asked. Strong enough to build ships that can survive in the crushing gravity. Strong enough to create weapons that use the high pressure as an advantage. Strong enough to build cities that float on toxic seas and consider it normal. The screen showed a group of human children playing in a recreational area. They were jumping and running with casual ease, despite the crushing gravity that would kill most alien species instantly. They had been born in these conditions, and to them, normal gravity would feel strange and weak. Commander Dr. Kylemoth said, his voice filled with horror. These humans haven't just adapted to extreme conditions, they've become specialized for them. The humans on the ice world are different from the humans on the heat world, who are different from the humans on the heavy world. Different how? Genetically, physically, mentally. They're still human, but they're human variants designed for specific extreme environments. They're all connected, sharing technology and knowledge across their impossible worlds. Vextara stared at the data, her crystal structure beginning to fracture with stress. You're telling me they've deliberately created different subspecies of their own race? And they're proud of it, Dr. Kylemoth said. Listen to this intercepted. Communication. A recording played of human voices talking casually about their modifications. They discussed genetic improvements, environmental adaptations, and technological enhancements the way other species might discuss the weather. It was routine, normal, expected. They're not just surviving impossible conditions, Dr. Kylemoth concluded. They're using those conditions to become stronger, smarter, and more capable than they were before. Every extreme world makes them better, and the defensive implications, Vextara asked. Catastrophic for us, Dr. Kylemoth replied. They've created fortress worlds that we can't attack because we can't survive on them. But more than that, they've created specialized human populations that are perfectly adapted to defend those worlds. The screen showed training exercises on all three worlds. Human soldiers practicing in conditions that would kill Union troops instantly. They moved with speed and precision, using their environmental advantages as weapons. The ice world humans can fight in temperatures that would freeze our weapons solid, Dr. Kylemoth explained. The heat world humans can operate in thermal conditions. That would melt our armor. The heavy world humans are so strong and durable that our standard weapons might not even hurt them. And they're expanding, Communications Officer Plexstar added, monitoring ongoing transmissions. I'm detecting communications with 17 other human settlements on equally extreme worlds. They're coordinating resources and sharing technology. Across their entire network of impossible colonies, Vextara felt her crystal structure cracked further. They've created a network of fortress worlds that support each other. More than that, Dr. Kylemoth said, they've created a civilization based on conquering the impossible. While we expand by finding comfortable worlds, they expand by finding worlds that challenge them. Every new extreme environment makes them stronger. The implications were staggering. The humans weren't just surviving on worlds that should be uninhabitable. They were using those worlds to evolve, to improve, to become more than they had been before. Commander Dr. Kylemoth said quietly, we're not facing a normal species. We're facing a species that treats cosmic horror as a learning experience. They don't just survive the impossible, they turn it into an advantage. Vextara looked around her bridge at her crew. Every alien face showed the same expression of growing terror. They had encountered a species that had deliberately chosen to live in hell, and had not only survived, but prospered. "What do we do?" she asked, though she feared there might be no good answer. "I don't know," Dr. Kylemoth admitted. "Our standard tactics assume we can siege a world by cutting off resources. But these worlds are self-sufficient. They assume we can threaten a population by making their environment hostile. But these humans have made hostility their home." And communications officer Plexstar added grimly, "They're still expanding. Long-range sensors show human ships heading toward even more extreme destinations." Ostera. Fleet Admiral Quenzar arrived in the system 3 days later with the Union's most powerful battle group. His massive command ship, the Eternal Conquest, had destroyed hundreds of worlds over 2 centuries of galactic expansion. Behind him followed 50 warships, each one capable of reducing a planet to ash. Commander Vextera met with the Admiral in his war room, a chamber lined with displays showing the victories of the Union fleet. But today, those displays showed something new and terrifying: 3 worlds that refused to surrender despite being completely surrounded. "Commander Vextera," Admiral Quenzar said, his voice rumbling through his massive bulk. "The Admiral's species look like living stone, 8 feet tall and nearly indestructible. Your reports claim these humans are living on uninhabitable worlds. Surely you're exaggerating." "I wish I were, Admiral," Vextera replied, her crystal structure dim with exhaustion. "The evidence is undeniable. They've turned death worlds into thriving colonies." Admiral Quenzar studied the tactical displays. "No matter. We'll use standard siege protocols. Cut off their supply lines, bombard their positions, force them to surrender through resource depletion. It always works." "Admiral, with respect, these worlds are their supply lines. They're completely self-sufficient. Impossible. No colony can survive without outside support." Dr. Kylemoth stepped forward, carrying a data tablet loaded with analysis. "Admiral, these humans have been preparing for exactly this scenario. Look at their resource production." The main display showed detailed scans of the 3 worlds. The ice world was producing enough food to feed millions. The day-night world was generating massive amounts of energy. The heavy world was manufacturing advanced materials that couldn't be made anywhere else. "They're not just surviving," Dr. Kylemoth explained. "They're producing surplus resources. They could survive a siege for decades, possibly centuries." "Admiral?" Quenzar's stone features showed the first signs of doubt, and we'll bombard them directly. "Orbital strikes have never failed." "I wouldn't recommend that approach, Admiral," came a voice from the communications system. Everyone turned to see the main screen activate. A human appeared, not one of the commanders they had spoken to before, but an older man with gray hair and calm eyes. He wore a simple uniform with insignia that marked him as a high-ranking officer. "I am Admiral Choi Minho of the Human Defense Network," the man said politely. "I understand you're considering military action against our colonies. Human, you will surrender immediately or face the consequences," Admiral Quenzar roared, his stone form radiating authority. "I'm afraid that's not possible," Admiral Choi replied calmly. "These worlds are our homes. We're prepared to defend them." "You cannot defend against the full might of the Union fleet." "Perhaps not," Choi agreed. "But we can make any attack very costly for you. May I demonstrate?" Before Admiral Quenzar could respond, warning alarms began sounding throughout the Union fleet. Navigation Officer Crixtal looked up from his station in horror. "Admiral, incoming projectiles from the ice world. Multiple launches detected. Possible. We're outside their weapons range. Tell that to the projectiles, sir." The main screen switched to an external view. Massive chunks of ice, each one the size of a small ship, were streaking toward the Union fleet at incredible speed. But these weren't just random chunks. They were precisely aimed, accelerated to devastating velocities. "Ice asteroids," Admiral Choi explained conversationally. "We use gravity catapults built into the planet's core. The projectiles are accelerated through a series of magnetic tunnels that run through the planet. By the time they reach the surface, they're moving at significant fractions of light speed." The ice chunks slammed into the outer ships of the Union fleet. The impact sent massive vessels spinning out of control, their hulls cracked and systems failing. "The ice fragments are frozen at temperatures that make them harder than most metals," Choi continued. and we have thousands of them ready to launch. Admiral Quenzar stared at the damage reports flooding in. 3 of his escort ships were severely damaged, and they hadn't even begun their attack yet. That's not possible, he said. Be accelerated to those speeds. Normal ice? No, Choi agreed. But we've been perfecting cold weather technology for 15 years. Our ice is specially treated and molecularly enhanced. It's quite effective. Admiral Communications Officer Plexstar called out urgently. The day-night world is powering up some kind of massive energy array. The screen split to show the twilight world. Enormous solar collectors on the day side were rotating toward the Union fleet, while energy conduits on the night side were glowing with power. Solar plasma cannons, Admiral Choi explained helpfully. We collect solar energy on the day side, concentrate it through thermal lenses, and fire it as directed plasma beams. The temperature differential allows us to focus energy in ways that aren't possible with normal technology. You're bluffing, Admiral Quenzar said, but his voice showed uncertainty. A brilliant beam of concentrated solar energy lanced out from the twilight world. It passed between 2 Union ships, close enough that their hull plating began to glow from the heat. The beam continued past them and struck an asteroid in the distance, instantly vaporizing it. That was a warning shot, Choi said calmly. Duh. Full power setting can cut through most ship hulls like they're made of paper. In the heavy world, Admiral Quenzar asked grimly. I was hoping you'd ask, Choi replied. The screen switched to show massive installations on the methane world, gravity-assisted railguns. The high gravity allows us to accelerate projectiles to speeds that would be impossible anywhere else. We can fire solid metal slugs at relativistic velocities, Dr. Kylemouth whispered. Those would punch through our heaviest armor like it wasn't there. Exactly, Choi confirmed. I'm the high-pressure. Forges let us create projectiles from materials that are incredibly dense and hard. Each shot carries the kinetic energy of a small bomb. Admiral Quenzar looked around his command center. His supposedly overwhelming fleet was being threatened by weapons that shouldn't exist. Fired from worlds his ships couldn't even approach. This is impossible, he said. No species has ever weaponized planetary environments like this. Most species try to make worlds comfortable, Choi replied. We prefer to make them useful. The extreme conditions force us to develop technologies that other species can't imagine. Admiral, Tactical Officer Vrenjik reported, I'm detecting movement. From all 3 worlds? Multiple ships launching. The display showed human vessels emerging from the 3 worlds. But these weren't normal ships. They were built for the extreme conditions of their homeworlds. Ships from the ice world are designed to operate in near absolute zero temperatures, Choi explained. Their hulls are made from materials that get stronger in extreme cold. Ships from the heat world can survive in the coronas of stars. And ships from the heavy world are built like flying fortresses. They can ram your vessels and survive the impact. How many ships? Admiral Quenzar asked. Enough, Choi replied. But Admiral, we don't want to fight. We just want to live in peace on our chosen worlds. Chosen worlds, Admiral Quenzar repeated. You chose to live on death worlds. We chose to live on worlds that challenge us, that make us stronger, that give us advantages no other species can match. Every extreme environment is an opportunity to grow. Admiral Dr. Kylemouth said urgently. Our weapon systems aren't designed for these conditions. Our plasma cannons will freeze solid in the ice world's atmosphere. Our kinetic weapons will melt from the heat differential on the twilight world. The heavy world's gravity will pull our missiles off course. You're saying we can't fight effectively in these environments? I'm saying these humans have turned their environments into weapons, while those same environments disable our weapons. Admiral Choi nodded. That's the idea, Admiral. We're not trying to be aggressive, just very well prepared to defend our homes. But why? Admiral Quenzar asked. Why choose to live this way? Because easy doesn't make you strong, Choi replied. Comfortable doesn't make you innovative. Safe doesn't make you adaptable. We chose these worlds because they force us to be better than we were, and if we withdraw, Admiral Quenzar asked, then you leave in peace, and we continue building our lives on our chosen worlds. We have no interest in expanding into Union space. We have plenty of extreme worlds to colonize. More extreme worlds? Oh yes, Choi said with a smile. We have colony ships heading to worlds that orbit pulsars, planets in the radiation fields around neutron stars, and rogue worlds drifting in the void between galaxies. The more impossible the conditions, the more interesting the challenge. Admiral Quenzar stared at the human on his screen. In 2 centuries of conquest, he had never encountered anything like this. The humans had turned cosmic horror into home, impossibility into advantage, and death worlds into fortress systems. Admiral Communications Officer Plexstar reported, "I'm detecting Union distress signals from the Kepler system. Another human colony there has disabled 3 of our scout fleets using some kind of gravitational weapon." And Admiral Navigation Officer Crickstal added, "Long-range sensors show human activity around a black hole in the Cygnus region. They appear to be building some kind of installation in the event horizon." Admiral Quenzar felt something he had never experienced in his long military career. For the first time, he was facing an enemy he couldn't defeat, couldn't understand, and couldn't predict. "Admiral Choi," he said finally, "what do humans want?" "To live, to grow, to explore, and to challenge ourselves," Choi replied. "To turn the impossible into possible, and to raise our children in worlds that make them stronger than we are. And if we try to stop you?" Choi's expression became serious. "Then you'll discover just how creative humans can be when we're defending our families." Admiral Quenzar looked around his command center one more time, then made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. "Fleet, withdraw to a safe distance. We need to rethink our approach." An Admiral Navigation Officer, Crickstal added, "Long-range sensors show human activity around a black hole in the Cygnus region. They appear to be building some kind of installation in the event horizon." Admiral Quenzar felt something he had never experienced in his long military career. For the first time, he was facing an enemy he couldn't defeat, couldn't understand, and couldn't predict. "Admiral Choi," he said finally, "what do humans want?" "To live, to grow, to explore, and to challenge ourselves," Choi replied. "To turn the impossible into possible, and to raise our children in worlds that make them stronger than we are. And if we try to stop you?" Choi's expression became serious. "Then you'll discover just how creative humans can be when we're defending our families." Admiral Quenzar looked around his command center one more time, then made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. "Fleet, withdraw to a safe distance. We need to rethink our approach." An Admiral Navigation Officer, Crickstal added, "Long-range sensors show human activity around a black hole in the Cygnus region. They appear to be building some kind of installation in the event horizon." Admiral Quenzar felt something he had never experienced in his long military career. For the first time, he was facing an enemy he couldn't defeat, couldn't understand, and couldn't predict. "Admiral Choi," he said finally, "what do humans want?" "To live, to grow, to explore, and to challenge ourselves," Choi replied. "To turn the impossible into possible, and to raise our children in worlds that make them stronger than we are. And if we try to stop you?" Choi's expression became serious. "Then you'll discover just how creative humans can be when we're defending our families." Admiral Quenzar looked around his command center one more time, then made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. "Fleet, withdraw to a safe distance. We need to rethink our approach."